Hello, everyone. We're back at it again with another Rolling Stones album review. This time we're looking at the much maligned Dirty Work. And I just want to ask, is this a lot better than we think it is? When you talk about most Rolling Stones records or you see ranking the Stones albums on YouTube, this is usually, if not dead last on most people's list, it's pretty close to it. And sometimes after another listen through just earlier today, this one I always thought it's better than people give it credit for whatever reason. I know it came out at a strange time. This, released March 24th, 1986. You've got a lot of different bands releasing albums at the same time. Poison releases their debut. Look what the cat dragged in. Bon Jovi's got Slippery When Wet is out. The Van Halen, their new record with Sammy Hagar, 5150 is out. David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. Cinderella, Night Songs, all those kind of bands of that ilk, if you will, are releasing all these records. They're a bit younger. They're kind of like the new thing on MTV. And, the Stones, they've been at it for a while and they tend to come out with this one, Dirty Work. And if you're watching this, I assume you know that Mick and Keith aren't getting along that well. The band, they haven't been touring. Charlie's got some personal issues, and, who knows what else is going on behind scenes. Mick is still trying to release more solo records and get his solo career going. And, Keith is going to do some solo stuff too. But in the meantime, we've got Dirty Work to look at. And this record, for my opinion, whatever it's worth, I think it's pretty good. I don't know it's their best, but it's definitely not their worst. It kind of, you know, Undercover, it has an 80s sound to it, but I think they're going for a heavier sound. And I don't know if it's because of what was going on in the 80s. A lot of harder rocking bands are coming out and they're kind of taking over MTV back when MTV played rock. And so the Stones are kind of fitting into that. They're not really glammed out. I know the cover, they're kind of in that Miami Vice type thing. And in some of the videos, Mick's hair is a little bit longer than he usually has had it, or has had it for probably since the early 70s, maybe a little glammed out. But generally, this is a pretty good rock record. It starts off One Hit to the Body, which I really like, guitar solo from Jimmy Page, but that one starts off cool with, the hi-hat going with Charlie, and then you got, the acoustic guitar, the electric guitar comes in, and Mick is singing very aggressively. I guess that's what you would call it. Throughout this entire record, it seems like he's really putting a lot into it, and even like Charlie's drumming. He doesn't play drums on every song. There's like a couple on here where Ronnie plays drums, but it seems like it sounds through the recording like he's hitting harder than he normally does and is fired up, even though he's having some personal struggles at the time. But One Hit to the Body, great way to start it off. Followed up by my personal favorite on the record, Fight. This is just I don't know if I would call it hard rock, but it's definitely a rocking song. It kind of fit into the 80s. Maybe not with some of the more metal bands, but it's definitely up there. A very fast paced, hard rocking song. I like it. Then three, you got Harlem Shuffle, the cover, and that was, I guess you'd say, the big hit of the record, or the record that was, or the song that was most known besides One Hit to the Body. They did a video, and they played that in concert for a little while. And it's a good song, nice groove to it, and maybe not my favorite because I prefer their originals to covers, but it's all right. And another one is Hold Back, which is another kind of hard rocker. It's going at a pretty good pace. It's maybe a little forgettable. It's maybe not the best song on the record. I kind of like it, but it's once you listen to it, it's kind of I don't really go back to it much. Then you have Too Rude, which is a cover where you have Keith singing and Ronnie's on drums. It's reggae. To me, I'm not crazy about it. It's maybe a little boring. Just, I don't know. I guess they kind of throw that in there. Considering all the other songs are pretty rocking, this one just, I don't know, kind of like your typical song we're going to throw on there. And, it kind of mellows out because the record's going from this point at a pretty good pace. These songs are pretty rocking. Harlem Shuffle's more of a groove, but all the other ones are a little bit heavier edge to them. And of course, then we get over to the other side. It leads off with Winning Ugly, and for whatever reason, if you guys heard the song Baby Jane by Rod Stewart, I don't know when that came out, sometime in the 80s, but the song reminds me so much of that kind of keyboard synth sound and kind of driving beat. It's like it's a pretty decent song, but it just really reminds me of Baby Jane, that kind of mid 80s sort of rock, sort of synth pop kind of song, but it's decent. And then we go from that to Back to Zero, and this is more of kind of a pop 80s type song. It kind of reminds me of something Brian Ferry would do. I don't know why, but it just has that sound to it. When I heard it, kind of reminds me of that, like how his stuff sounded in the 80s. Then we go to Dirty Work, the title track. That's another fast rocker. So you got more of these up-tempo rockers, Mick singing very aggressively. They're just really rocking out on this record. Then we go to Had It With You, and the riff sounds like something out of the early 70s, like you'd hear on It's Only Rock and Roll, something like that. The riff is got that kind of sound to it, and also sort of has like a Tattoo You feel, like it could fit on Tattoo You. I don't know why some of this stuff is just the way I listen to these songs, and that's just how I hear them, but it's got a 70s riff with a Tattoo You kind of feel, like Neighbors or Hang Fire or something like that. And then they close it out with Sleep Tonight, which is another one. Ronnie is playing drums and Keith sings on it, and it kind of works. It's a bit slower, it's a little long, but it's okay, for like an album closer. And usually by the time you get to that point, okay, you're ready, you're done with the record, you're gonna turn it off anyway, so you're on to the next. So there we have Dirty Work. All in all, I actually like this record. I don't really have a rating system per se, but it's pretty good. And if you kind of dismissed it before in the past, you might want to go back and take a look at it. If you look at it, most people online are going to be just telling you it's not very good and it's not up to par. But if you haven't listened to it a while, you go back, it really does sound like they did, even though they might have not been getting along, they were putting effort into it, and they were making, maybe because of what was going on at the time, they were trying to get a little bit heavier with their sound. And and there's not there's that Stones have that kind of experimental stuff on like Undercover and some of their other records, but here it looks like they were really going, we're just going to go straightforward rock and roll. I mean, I know there's a few reggae and tunes in Harlem Shuffle, but it was, pretty much like, hey, let's play some guitar riffs and make a rocker. And there's, it was the 80s, so you're not going to escape, some of the 80s isms like synths and keyboards and all that and those kind of sounds. But overall, Dirty Work's pretty cool. You should check it out if you hadn't in a while. And anyways, that's it for Dirty Work, and we'll see you next time.